Well, there's only 10 days left until the end of Q1. For Tesla, that means that they are racing to the goal of 2,500 Model 3s made per week, which is kind of a big deal because this is like their stock relies pretty much on it. You know, and they've kind of promised us a few times that they will be making a certain number of Model 3s every time it goes down more and more, and now it's kind of down to 2,500, and some people are saying they may not be able to make it. Well, you know, will they, won't they? Well, there's good news and there's bad news. We're going to talk about it all. There are a few other obviously things coming out in the world of electric cars, including Tesla semi-truck and so forth, and I'll tell you a little bit about my trip to Monterey, California. That's why I wasn't streaming from my studio yesterday. Some interesting things to share with you guys, and of course the comment of the day. So let's get going. All right, so Model 3, of course, is headlining as usually it does for a couple of times a week. Now, just like I said, I mentioned two news, really, two sets of news that let's see how we can interpret them. And by the way, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing and becoming a part of our community, really, community E. See, I'm clever. So yeah, so first of all, there's a bunch of different ways how people are keeping tracks of new VIN numbers that Tesla is registering for Model 3. I think one of them has a Twitter account, and so they're consistently updating us. And I'm going to start with good news, by the way. So the good news is that Tesla has been registering about, what, 1,500 new VINs per week. And this week they've registered a little over 2,000. Now, VINs is not exactly the way to tell, but it's like the best way that we can tell what's happening, because they're skipping sometimes numbers and even tens of dozens of VIN numbers. But at the same time, we can say, okay, well, there's registered so many numbers, you know, a month ago, and this is what the production was like, and now they're wrapping it up to, you know, so many VIN numbers, so probably in production it means, you know, a proportion of that. So if they went from 1,500 to 2,000 new VINs registered, so we're probably looking at, you know, maybe 1,500 a week. So, and even if they're gonna make a car for every VIN they've registered, obviously it's still not 2,500, and that's the bad news, right? So it looks like they're gonna finish the quarter maybe nowhere near the 2,500. The expectation is that they're going to not meet that goal. The stock's been kind of falling little by little by little, and we'll see what happens when they're actually going to announce it. We'll see what Elon says at the Q1 earnings call. I don't know how many more excuses they can have. Now, we do know that there's a Grohmann Engineering that they, you know, the company that they bought in Germany, and they have an assembly line that we're supposed to get here and install. I don't know where they're at with that, but they're saying basically that they were supposed to meet the production goal of 2,500 cars per week without that, but it should be here by the end of the month, and obviously that should ramp up the production, and maybe that's what this whole new VIN number registration is all about. So I wouldn't have my hopes up. I mean, it's kind of fortunate because, you know, when they said 2,500, you know, only like half a year ago, it seemed like, wait, that's like a quarter of what they promised by now. So I'm not really sure if it's going to affect the stock that much because they are successful at ramping up. It's just slower than everybody expected. And yeah, Cordero Jones in the chat room says he doesn't think that they're gonna be able to make it, and I think a lot of people agree with you. All right, so before I move on to my next story, just wanted to remind you, of course, that this show is sponsored by Avanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla, and you can get your own discount code in the description of this video. All right, so as you know, yesterday I was streaming from Carmel, California. Really, it's near. Most of the event was in Monterey, but somebody watched the video and said, "Hey, I know that place. That's in Carmel." Yeah, Carmel by the Sea. It's a beautiful, beautiful area, and I was there for like a media days and gatherings for West Coast journalists, and then there were a lot of different car brands. Kind of meeting up and mingling, and there were a lot of test drives and everything. For my Patreons, I posted a picture, you know, me with all of those awesome cars, but they were all awesome gas cars. The only car, well, there's two of them that I found were these Nissan Leafs. They were actually pre-production still that Nissan brought, and they actually did a big presentation. So I was a little disappointed, but at the same time, you know, reality is hitting me, of course, and as usual, and we should kind of know that, you know, that electric cars are still not a thing. out there in the world. And this was kind of a good example of that, you know, most journalists are still covering mainly gas cars, and they're interested in mainly gas cars. And I talked to a lot of them, and I found only like 2 there that are like dedicating their work to electric cars, and everybody else is like, they weren't really taking, even like, I don't think a lot of these journalists were taking electric cars seriously. Most brands didn't really have their, obviously, cars, but even reps weren't really that knowledgeable, which I understand, because if they didn't bring any electric cars, why bother? But I do have to say that the Nissan reps or PR people weren't really knowledgeable about the car either. I was able to test drive one again. I was kind of trying to concentrate on ProPilot more, and actually, because it was raining and foggy, it refused to turn on. It basically said bad weather conditions, not gonna happen, and so it didn't work out. And I was just having an argument with somebody on one of the Nissan Leaf Facebook groups, because they were telling me how Nissan Leaf's new ProPilot is better than a Tesla Model S and X, because a 1.0 autopilot version, because it's made by the same company, Mobileye, but it's a better version. Well, obviously that's not true. I've asked Nissan about it. They're going to get back to me, because I didn't know off the top of their head, and that was kind of an issue for me all throughout the thing. But I loved it. I mean, I had a good time. I met so many awesome people, other journalists, and PR people. I just had a good time and made some new friends. So overall, it was good. Just the reality was kind of hitting me there. All right, so let me move on to the next story, and that is the fact that today the board approved this a 10-year package for Elon Musk that basically will pay him nothing if he doesn't achieve the goals. I think there are 12 milestones, but if he does, he will probably be the richest man on earth. So it's like, you know, a pretty big extremes. But basically, it's mainly relying on getting the market cap up by $50 million every so often. I forget what it is. And every time he does it, it adds about 1% of outstanding stock to his name. And then there's also some, I believe, revenue goals and there are other operational and sales goals that tie into that. But they approved it, and off he goes. The previous package was also very similar. It was kind of based on goals rather than just time. So is he already rich enough, asks Alan. Probably, but that's the beautiful part about it, right? He doesn't have to do any of this stuff for us or the world or whatever. And I think things like this can only be done by somebody who is like too rich, right? But still, it's not about the money for him. It's about changing the world. And so I love that fact. So all right, let's move on. Oh, by the way, if you guys are enjoying this video, I would strongly encourage you to give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Always does well after. More Tesla news. As you know, the semi-truck has been on sort of a tour, like a rock star around the country. Mainly, you know, at first they were, you know, transferring some batteries from Gigafactory to Fremont Factory. That was cool. Then it went all the way to St. Louis to visit one of their top customers as far as reservations are concerned, Anheuser-Busch. And now, to no surprise, and here's the video from our friend Eli of my Tesla Adventure YouTube channel, and this is where he captured both of them supercharging on the way to the factory. But now they moved on, and they're now at Pepsi, not headquarters, one of their facilities, but just showcasing it to the potential client. Not potential, they were actually reserved 100 of these suckers, so they're definitely one of the bigger ones. Alan, changing the world at a very slow pace. A Model 3, yeah, true. So it's been I am expecting they're gonna go to UPS and other facilities and other companies that have reserved this truck. And you know, everybody admits that even with like 100 trucks ordered, right, like Pepsi operates like 10,000 trucks. So if this works out, and right now they're trying to pick the right routes for the tests, because you know, depending on the load and the timing and also the distance. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to test it. But if it works out, if it really is going to pay for itself within 1 or 2 years, like, you know, Tesla promises, you know, it looks like they're going to go all out and start replacing their fleets, all of them. So yeah, more great news. Of course, just also before the next story about BMW, I wanted to thank all of my Patreons who have been contributing, and I've been posting pictures and videos for you guys a little bit more often. One of the pictures, just like I mentioned, was from Monday from Monterey with all the cool cars that I've see, and I didn't test drive any of them except for obviously the Nissan Leaf, and I did test drive the Alfa Romeo Giulia, I guess it's called. A beautiful car, but I'm, you know, just kind of was interested to seeing what they're up to, because that car is, I guess, car of the year for the Motor Trend. So I just wanted to check out up close and personal. Very, very beautiful. There are only 2 semis in the wild so far, asks Johnny B. Well, nobody really knows. People are speculating there are more than the ones that we're seeing. But as far as these 2 right now on that tour, these are the 2 ones that seems to be the same trucks. Brian, has Alex picked the date yet, or does he need our help? For what? What are you guys talking about? What am I picking a date for? You let me know, guys. Meanwhile, I'm going to move on to the BMW story. As you know, they've just came out a couple of weeks ago saying they're going to move forward with this. I think it's a good-looking car. They're renaming it to i4, and it's going to go into production in the next few years. But today they've announced that they're actually going to move forward with the rest of their electrifying fleet, and they're announcing the iX3, which is going to be X3 type of a car, so it's compact SUV electric version, and the iNext, which will be competitor to Model 3, so a smaller luxury sedan. Looks like they're moving forward. No pictures, no date. No, there's a date, 2021, I believe they're saying that iNext will go in production. So not in the near future, but in the future, relatively reasonable future. So so that's exciting. That's good for BMW. I've also met one of the PRs, so I'm hoping to keep in closer touch, in touch with them, you know, moving forward. By the way, for those of you guys who are enjoying my Saturday interviews, we have a few guests scheduled. I'll have more. Zach and Jesse might get pushed a little bit because I might be attending Eli's event, the footage of the semi-trucks that you've seen. We're gonna go from one of the largest superchargers in the United States all the way to a beautiful beach town of Avila Beach. So I'm gonna try to see if we can do that. Oh, you guys are talking about my personal life. Oh, you guys are trying to schedule my wedding date. Well, that's unfortunate because we're not getting married with my girlfriend. We're happy the way that we are. So I appreciate it, guys, but for now we're good. We made it to 7-year mark almost in June, and so for now we're good. I appreciate the efforts. Broman says BMW has the most concepts of nothing. True, but at the same time, because they're putting so much money into it, and let me go back to that image graphic. It does seem like they're a little bit more serious this time around. All right, so and of course this coming weekend I'm looking forward to talking to James Cook. Hopefully everything goes well, because I haven't had anybody cancel on me, but you know, because it's opposite sides of the worlds and of the world, so we'll see what happens with that. All right, so now let me move on to the comment of the day, and we are going to talk about well, an unfortunate accident that happened in Arizona that killed a woman by an Uber self-driving car. As you can see, this is a Volvo car, exactly the one as actually had an accident. And the comment is, I believe she was hit by, his username is R or hers. He or she says, I believe she was hit by an Uber driver that happened to have a self-driving responsibility falls on the driver. That aside, so sad. Well, first of all, yeah, I mean, I know I've been kind of talking about this stuff from the perspective of statistics and numbers, but obviously a life was lost. Somebody didn't make it home to their loved ones, and it's always a tragedy. But we kind of wanted to look at it from a bigger perspective, right? Well, first of all, by the way, it looked like police is not going to charge anybody, and they're not going to assign a fault to the Uber driver or Uber or whatever to the car. Looks like pedestrian. She was crossing at the unmarked dark area and kind of a jump right in front of the car. Again, we'll make the final judgment when the investigation is concluded, but that's what I'm hearing, and there are some reports out there about that. Still very unfortunate. I just hope that this does not give a bad name for self-driving cars. One incident obviously does not represent how this technology is moving. It's still much safer right now. The self-driving cars have been pretty good, definitely better than regular drivers. So all this time while they were testing, you know, Uber and Waymo and Cruise, or, you know, Chevy Cruise, while they were testing it, you know how many people died from other people's, you know, irresponsible behavior? thousands and thousands and thousands, and this is the first death, which doesn't even seem like it is going to be a fault of the self-driving technology. But it's an interesting question. If it does ever happen and it is fault of a self-driving car, who takes the responsibility? Is this a driver or the company or people who wrote the software? Because if you're a driver and you're there to supervise, obviously you're letting the car drive itself and you're kind of trusting that car to, oh, I never transferred this, my bad, guys. And you're trusting the car to you know, make the decisions first, and then if you see it's in trouble, then you're making a decision second. So obviously your decision time is always going to be a little bit more delayed than a regular person who's paying attention, because you have to give the machine a chance, right, and react a little bit later. So therefore, you're kind of not really in control, and your decisions might be a little bit delayed. Not a little bit, a lot delayed. So are you going to be responsible for something that really machine first had a chance to do and you kind of were a backup driver? So I don't know. I don't know the answer for that, guys. So it's actually something that the debate that will just have to continue. And I'm just going to have to leave it at that, because you guys go ahead and comment in the comment section and in chat, and we'll, a lot of people are saying driver. Not a lot. It's just Alan said it twice. But again, man, it's Alan, you know, imagine you're the driver and, you know, your reaction time is delayed as your job description, right? So you have to delay your reaction time because your job is to kind of watch the computer first. So it is, and then who would want to work as a test driver then if you're going to have a, you know, take responsibility for the computer and have kind of be handicapped at that point? So Francois says Tesla pushed responsibility on the driver, correct? Would this be the same for full? Well, no. So Tesla was level 2 autonomy, right? And the driver was watching a movie and he wasn't following the instructions from the computer. So that was completely different. This is level 4 autonomy, and it is a professional driver that's actually been hired to do the job of supervising the machine. So I guess we're gonna have to do a different show about it, because I think there's gonna be a lot of opinions about it, rightfully so. So we'll continue with that conversation. But for now, guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me. It's always fun. We're gonna meet. Oh, whoa, what did I do? Come back. All right. Well, where? Okay, here it is. I don't know what I'm doing today with all these buttons, right? It just confused me. One day away, I'm already like completely lost. Anyway, just wanted to say thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Check out the description of this video if you want to join as a Patreon. Other than that, I'm going to see you hopefully tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Of course, remember to stay charged.